Okay, so as we all know, One Piece is rarely, if ever, actually consistent with its scaling of powerful characters, and more often than not we have situations, fights and events that completely fuck over any established scaling that has been done within the series. Which is something that has just happened once again with the recent stuff between Aokiji and Garp, with Aokiji beating Garp but claiming that he needed help from countless people to do so. Like, as of right now, everything around characters like Akainu, Aokiji, Sabo, Fujitora and others just appears completely fucked for me and up in the air. You see, going forward, we're all expecting this massive fight between Sabo and Akainu, a fight that many believe Sabo will actually win. Now, I don't necessarily think that's how it will actually go down, but that's a whole different topic for another video. The issue at hand today is how Oda has completely fucked Akainu's scaling, and it is worrying me how he intends to fix it going forward. For you see, after the offense between Akainu and Aokiji on Punk Hazard, many were scaling Aokiji to around the same level if not slightly below Akainu, because that fight was stated to have lasted 10 whole days and nights. And as we all saw, it was a fight that both characters sustained massive injuries in. Meaning for this to have actually been the case, the fight would have had to remain fairly even despite any disadvantage Aokiji supposedly had against Akainu's Devil Fruit. Now this means in terms of scaling, everybody had Akainu outranking Aokiji, even if that was just slightly. So now I want you to hold on to that for just a second, because on the other side of things we have Sabo, who was scaled to have been stronger than Luffy and potentially everyone else on Dressrosa at that time. And this was before he even attained Ace's Devil Fruit. Now there was the minor exception of Fujitora, who at that time was stronger than Sabo even after he attained Ace's Devil Fruit. Now it's of course believed that Sabo has gotten stronger over the last couple of arcs and is now believed to be stronger than Fujitora. How much stronger is slightly up in the air, but we could potentially scale him to around Egghead Kizaru or even Aokiji level. But again, this is very loose scaling because we haven't actually seen a lot from Sabo in recent times. This is just meant to actually establish any level of strength between Sabo and Akainu in the future, and potentially show us just how strong Sabo will need to become if he ever hopes to beat Akainu. Now next up we take a little look at the fight between Aokiji and Garp, where many were claiming Garp to have lost only because he had low stamina. Now first off, it was never directly stated that during that fight Garp was weakening because of anything like stamina. Sure, he claimed that his Galaxy Impact used to be more powerful in his use, but that doesn't mean his current level is lower than Aokiji or means that he's weaker than Aokiji by any means. Which, like I briefly mentioned earlier, is something Aokiji actually alludes to when he claims that he needed help taking Garp down. Like, out of all the Blackbeard pirates, Aokiji was the only one that could actually go toe to toe against Garp and actually live. But Aokiji, as it's currently shown, is far weaker than Garp. And this isn't anything to do with my own bias. I actually tend to prefer Aokiji and lean towards him winning that fight with ease. This actually comes from the scenes that we all read and saw within the anime. Like, nobody's claiming Aokiji to be weak. He's actually incredibly strong and has his own intensely strong haki. But again, that haki is nowhere near the levels of Garp's. And as it's been established many times in the past at this point, haki is more powerful and superior to the Devil Fruits. But again, I'm rambling on just a little bit. What this means is, as of right now, Garp is stronger than Aokiji, who, as we mentioned earlier, is weaker than Akainu just by a little bit. So that will place Akainu and Old Man Garp around arguably equal terms. Which, if we're assuming Akainu to be actually in his prime or close to it as of right now, then that makes no sense to me. Because Akainu was shown to be able to stand his ground against quote-unquote the strongest man in the entire world, Whitebeard. Sure, that was a sick and weakened Whitebeard, but still somebody capable of destroying an entire island. And somebody who was potentially capable of destroying the entire world in his prime. Meaning, as somebody in their prime and somebody believed to be Fleet Admiral level, Akainu should for all intents and purposes be stronger than Marineford Whitebeard and Hachinosu Garp at this point. But he isn't, if we're using Aokiji as his scaling example. But now, just in case I've lost any of you along the way, allow me to explain this just slightly differently. As of right now, with everything we've been shown by Oda, we have to assume that the scaling looks a little like this. Akainu is stronger than Aokiji. Sabo is stronger than Fujitora, Aokiji is weaker than Old Man Garp, and Old Man Garp is apparently equal if not arguably stronger than Akainu, who is also expected to be surpassed by Sabo in the very near future. Which means Sabo will eventually scale to stronger than even Hachinosu Garp. So what this means is Akainu's stocks are way down, and this guy is potentially going to be shown as a fraud in the near future. Which isn't what I believe by any means. Like, I've been on the Akainu copium since as far back as Marineford. It's just something that's becoming all too clear for me to see, and something I just wanted to bring up to all of you who may or may not see things differently than I do in terms of scaling. Like, following this same scaling pattern and logic, Dragon being Sabo's master, Garp's son and Luffy's dad likely indicates that his scaling going forward is going to be stronger than even Hachinosu Garp and potentially may even reach as high as Elbaf Island Shanks. which may just sound like more dragon copium, but honestly it would make a hell of a lot of sense, because inherited strength has always been a massive thing in the One Piece world. Meaning right from the start we almost always have to scale sons off their parents and grandsons off their granddads, which essentially places Dragon to around Garp and Luffy almost instantly right from the beginning, who I also argue are actually closer in strength to each other than you might initially believe. Like as of right now, with everything that we've seen Luffy accomplish on Wano and Egghead, I think placing his scaling above Garp's is actually justified. Like Luffy right now has awakened the strongest devil fruit of all time, and achieved a Fans Conqueror's Haki back on Wano. He was also able to go toe to toe against not one, not two, but 5 Gorosei on his own on Egghead Island. Like Luffy right now is looking borderline unbeatable. He's just gotta be placed above Garp. But I also can't imagine Luffy being stronger than Dragon before they've ever actually met. So I'd also argue that as of right now, Dragon is just slightly above Luffy in power scaling, but also just around Shanks' level on Elbaf, which would also actually still place Dragon below Eam, Joy Boy, and potentially even Whitebeard in his prime. But again, like a lot of the Sabo scaling in this video, it's all very loose and almost solely requires using other characters and their feats to make it make any sort of sense, because Dragon along with Sabo have done very little to almost nothing in the actual series. Now with all that out of the way, you tell me down in the comments, what does this Aokiji versus Garp fight mean for the scaling of other characters like Dragon and Akainu going forward? Will Sabo beat Akainu in the final war, and could he potentially be even stronger than Akainu as of right now? Tell me all that in the comments down below. But with that, I think that's going to do it for me in this video. Have a great day or night wherever you are, and peace.